Is Nightmare the crying child? Howdy Internet, and welcome to Theory Game, the only show on the interwebs with that exact title. You know, the other day I was reflecting on the build-up to Ultimate Custom Night, and how good we had it back then. Scott was determined to keep the community informed, and he gave us updates about the game's progress. But then I remembered something, and while researching, I discovered something big. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. April 1st, 2018. Scott had been regularly posting the different mechanics for the animatronics in the game as he finished them. On this specific date, Scott posted mechanics for 3 characters that threw the community into a frenzy. They were as follows. The phone guy. He will call into your office at random, creating a lot of noise and momentarily increasing the aggressiveness of the animatronics. He cannot call, however, if Springtrap is in the vents, because he can't be in 2 places at the same time. Foxy. He will run into your office when things are looking dire and offer to help you. You can choose one of 3 ways for him to assist. He can block 1 door, clear the vents, or add 1% more power to your meter. And finally, Nightmare Freddy. He appears suddenly in your office, holding an alarm clock. You have only a moment to press the button and activate the alarm. If you press the button in time, you will awaken in your bed for 10 seconds before falling back asleep and continuing the night. The potential lore implications were too great for the weak minds of the fanbase, and they were very unhappy. The backlash against these mechanics was too much for Scott, and he took them down shortly thereafter. But he didn't completely remove the mechanics from the game. Phone Guy's mechanic, sans the Springtrap bits, was reused practically word for word. And Foxy's mechanic was given to Rockstar Foxy, although the buffs were slightly nerfed. 2 plus 1% power, resetting the temperature, temporary soundproofing, or 10 Faz coins. He also had a chance to jump scare you. But Nightmare Freddy's final mechanic was completely different. He was changed to have the Freddles appear in your office, and you needed to shine your light on them to scare them away. So I got to thinking, what did Scott do with Nightmare Freddy's original mechanic? Let's see. A brown bear that appears in your office and makes you press a button in a short amount of time to avoid death? Wait. No! Rockstar Freddy has Nightmare Freddy's old mechanic! But why the change? Both Foxy and Phone Guy kept their mechanics, albeit with minor changes. But why did Rockstar Freddy get Nightmare Freddy's? It doesn't make sense. Unless Rockstar Freddy and Nightmare Freddy are one and the same! Rockstar Freddy was made from the dismantled Nightmare Freddy. It makes perfect sense. That's why he has Nightmare Freddy's mechanic, because they are the same animatronic. But if Rockstar Freddy was made from a Nightmare animatronic, that means that the other 3 Rockstar animatronics must be as well. Nightmare Bunny, Nightmare Chica, and Nightmare Foxy became Rockstar Bunny, Rockstar Chica, and Rockstar Foxy respectively. It makes perfect sense! But how is this possible? Well, we know Henry built the Rockstar animatronics, and he can't just build animatronics from nothing. And he obviously doesn't have a lot of money. That's why most of the animatronics in the catalog are old animatronics. Henry was using his old designs. When he does try to make new ones, we get things like trash in the game. So how did he make the Rockstars? Simple! He must have had access to Afton's old workshop. That's how he had the blueprints for the scooper and the security tags for Molten Freddy. And if the Nightmare animatronics were just sitting around deactivated, they would have been perfect to use for parts. So how did he make the Rockstars? Simple! He must have had access to Afton's old workshop. That's how he had the blueprints for the scooper and the security tags for Molten Freddy. And if the Nightmare animatronics were just sitting around deactivated, they would have been perfect to use for parts. But wait, what about Lefty? Aren't they a Rockstar animatronic? How do they fit into all this? Well, if only there was another Nightmare animatronic. There was a black bear that Henry could have used for his puppet catching device. That's right. Lefty equals Nightmare. But what about Plushtrap? If only there was a slightly greenish rabbit that somehow had parts replaced despite that being supposedly impossible. That's right. Afton's feet were actually Plushtraps. Afton must have scrapped the smaller animatronic for replacement parts. Wait, what about Nightmare Balloon Boy? Scott made sure to specify that that character was canon. I'm only going to say one word. Egg baby. So, the nightmare animatronics were all real, physical robots that were scrapped and reused to make the animatronics in Pizzeria Simulator. It's been staring us in the face this whole time. This explains parts of Ultimate Custom Night as well. All 5 Rockstar animatronics aren't blocked by the doors. But how is this possible? Well, look at the Nightmare animatronics. Nightmare Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Mangle, Balloon Boy, and Nightmare Own can all kill you even when your doors are closed. So if the Nightmares have this supernatural power, it makes sense that their remade forms would also share this ability. But you may have noticed the one Nightmare animatronic that can't kill you if your doors are closed. Plush Trap. Well, guess who else can't kill you if you close the door on him? Afton. Since Plush Trap didn't have that ability, Afton couldn't inherit it. While this all makes perfect sense, something was bugging me as I was looking at the Rockstars mechanics. Why is Rockstar Chica stopped by a wet floor sign? Is there any reason she might be afraid of slipping? Well, I looked back at the previous FNaF games to see if there was anything about wet floor signs that could answer this mystery. And sure enough, I found it. There are only 2 other games where wet floor signs appear. In FNaF 2, on the Party Room 2 camera, a wet floor sign very reminiscent of the one in Ultimate Custom Night appears. And this happens to be the same room that Chica uses to go into the vent. That doesn't look like she's afraid of slipping to me. Then again, in the security breach, there are the little pat-pat wet floor sign bots scattered all over the Pizzaplex. And Glamrock Chica shows absolutely no fear towards them. This may seem like a missed opportunity for a cool homage, but Steel obviously knew what they were doing when they made this decision. It seems like none of the Chicas are actually afraid of water, which makes Rockstar Chica's mechanic even more strange. But then, in FNaF 4, I found something in the left hall that changes everything. Don't see it? Let me brighten the image for you. There! Look at that picture on the wall. It's a picture of a waterfall. And guess what? Nightmare Chica does everything she can to stay on the opposite side of the house from the painting. And that's not all. Sometimes in the FNaF 4 bedroom, a vase of flowers can appear next to the bed. A vase filled with water! And merely the idea that she could be potentially near that vase scares Nightmare Chica enough to keep her from ever entering the bedroom. Instead, she sends her cupcake into the room. Every time! So, since Rockstar Chica and Nightmare Chica are the only chicken animatronics that have a fear of water, this just further illuminates the connection between them. And what about Rockstar Bonnie? How is he connected to Nightmare Bonnie? Well, just listen to his voice lines.
Why so blue? You know I've been true, and now I'll make slippers out of you. So good to see you again, my truest friend, but now your life must end. What a fine day to come here and say that your face and flesh I must play. What a treat to come here and meet your face as it hits concrete. I found my guitar, now reach for the stars as I plunge it through your heart.
Does that sound like a brand new animatronic? No! So why would an animatronic in Rockstar Bonnie's supposed condition sound like that? The answer should be obvious by this point. Since Nightmare Bonnie never had to talk, he just had to breathe, he didn't really need a good voice box. So therefore, Rockstar Bonnie gets a really bad voice box. So now we've made a solid connection between all of the Rockstars and their Nightmare counterpart. Except for one. It's time to talk about Lefty. If you look at Nightmare's design, you might notice that it has a mouth on its stomach. This small detail actually matches Lefty's purpose: to eat the puppet. It also just makes sense. When you accept this explanation, you'll notice something cool among the Pizzeria Simulator animatronics. The main antagonist from every game is represented. Molten Freddy obviously represents Freddy from the first game. Note the brownish coloring, and there's actually a theory that Molten Freddy actually contains a soul or melted endoskeleton of that specific Freddy, whatever. Lefty has the puppet from the second game inside of it. Afton obviously was the main antagonist of the third game. As we now know, Lefty is made of the parts of Nightmare from the fourth game. Scrap Baby represents Circus Baby's betrayal from Sister Location's real ending, and Molten Freddy represents Ennard from the fake ending of the same game. And if you squint your eyes, Henry can also represent Scott/Animadude from FNaF World. We also have all of the protagonists from the previous games present as well. So this means that at the end of Pizzeria Simulator, when Henry burns down the pizzeria and destroys everyone, it's an even more satisfying ending to the franchise than we realized. With that final climactic moment, we aren't just saying goodbye and farewell to Fazbear Entertainment, the Aftons, and Henry. We are also saying goodbye and farewell to each incredible game that we played throughout the years. Every piece that built to this moment, we are saying farewell to a franchise. And this is compounded in Security Breach. Instead of everyone being gone, we learn in this game that everyone survived. The Blob is actually an amalgamation of all the previous games in the franchise, forced to still exist a torturous existence. Truly a brilliant decision for the story. As we now know, the nightmares themselves must have been buried underneath the Pizzaplex with the rest of the pizzeria. So the parts of the nightmares were just laying around down there. What if some of it was still partially functional? Is there an animatronic that had parts replaced with nightmare parts? Bum bum bum. That's right. Burn Trap is literally a nightmare animatronic. Since Steelwool put so much thought into every decision they made for Security Breach, this basically proves that the Rockstars must have been made out of the nightmare animatronics for Vanny to scrap. Truly a masterpiece in writing. So in summary, we've learned that Afton made real, physical, nightmarish monsters to torture his son before deactivating them and leaving them lying around. Henry came and scrapped them for parts, using them to build a new generation of animatronics, the Rockstars. Nightmare became Lefty, who was designed to capture the puppet for Henry. Afton scrapped the smaller plush trap to repair himself after the Fazbear Fright fire, before being lured to the pizzeria in Pizzeria Simulator. Henry tried to destroy the nightmares along with everyone else, but failed, leaving them to rot in a massive sinkhole. Then he used their scrap parts to rebuild Burn Trap, until the last of the nightmare pieces were absorbed into the blob. Today we have confirmed that the Rockstars are the nightmares. There is not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that this is correct. We have proven without a doubt that this is the case. All of the evidence supports this conclusion. But remember that this is just a theory about a game for kids, and you are all entitled to think whatever you want, yada yada yada. So I will see you in the next one. Bye!